Good morning. Today we are going to be covering section 4.2, and you should have your materials ready. You should have your pencil, your red pen, your highlighter, your ruler, your glue stick, and last but not least, you should also have your cutout for section 4.2. So we only have one cutout for section 4.2 that we are going to be using. So take the time to cut it, nice and neat. If you don't have your cutout by any chance, then you can just go ahead and copy it down. We are only using one cutout today. And we also have two definitions or two word problems that we're going to be saving for later as we review in the next week or so. So let's go and write down the title. The title, or before we do that, what should we do first? Correct. Let's go and place our margin. 2, 4, 6. And I'm going to place my margin. And I'm going to write down the title, which is 4.2, writing equations. So 4.2. Of lines. But now they're going to be in different forms. So now they're going to be in point slope form. And now let's go ahead and place our cutout right below. And I'm going to use my glue stick, and I'm going to make sure that I glue it all the way through, just to make sure that all the corners, we are taking care of all the corners. Oh, my glue stick is not working today. So let me use a scratch paper. Here we go. Wow. Interesting. There you go. That's my glue stick today. Please make sure I don't have any excess in there. That is my day. So let's go and paste it right through it. There you go, that works. There's a lot of excess in here. That was nice and neat, right? That looks so much better than I thought it was going to be. So therefore, let's go and take the time to paste it, nice and neat. Then read through the cutout and see if you can see what we're going to cover today. So therefore, a linear equation written in the form, and notice that now we have a new form. This form is called the point slope form. So remember, the other form that we used was the slope intercept form, because it was the slope and the y-intercept. This one is called the point slope. So what do you think we need in order to be able to use this equation? Correct. We need the slope and a point. The line passes through the point, so they're going to give us a point, and the slope of the line is m. Then we can use this equation. So therefore, we are going to be using a point, and my slope, once again, I'm going to place it in red, and that's going to be given to us. So we have our slope and our point. Our point is going to be x1, and y1, and we're going to plug it in there. So what I want you guys to do, I want you guys to place 2 squares, and that is where you guys are going to be plugging in the information. And especially because now we have y and y1, and then x and x1, so it gets a little more challenging. But by placing those little squares there, it's going to make your life so much easier. So let's go through example number 1, and then we can talk about the graphical representation of this as well. And I should get out of the way, right? I said, Diaz, get out of the way. Here we go. So example number 1. And all of our examples will be very similar. We have, write the equation of the line. That passes through the point. So they're going to give you a point. Every single time you're going to use that equation, they will be giving you a point. In this case, the point is 5, negative 2, and has a slope of 3. And now, let's take a look at the information that's provided for us. So write the equation of the line that passes through the point. So therefore, they're giving us a point. So I'm going to highlight my point. And they're giving us also the slope is 3. I'm going to go and circle my slope, and I'm going to place an M right next to it. Now remember that your point is your x and your y, and they're only giving us 1 point, so therefore this is x1, y1. Does this look familiar? Yes, right? We did this when we were looking for the slope. So we'll get to that as well. Now, since they're giving us the slope and a point, we must use this equation. Remember that on the previous lesson, they were giving us the y-intercept and the slope. The y-intercept was the b, so we use the one equation with the b, which is the mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. And now, let's go and write down the equation. Y minus, but instead of y1, I'm going to replace it with a square. Equals m will be my slope. Then we have x minus, and I'm going to place my square again, because that's going to help me remember what numbers to plug in. So let's see. y1. y1 is negative 2. And do you see a double negative? Correct. So therefore, that's going to become a positive. So let's just make a big positive sign now. Then here will be my slope, which is 3. And now here will be my x1. In this case, my x1 is 5. This equation is called the point slope form. That is in point slope form. Now, we want to be able to rewrite it into slope intercept form. And the way that we rewrite it into slope intercept form is by solving for y. It's a very quick process. You guys are very good at solving equations. So I need to be able to leave the y by itself. I'm going to place my line. And one of the things that I notice is that I have my parentheses here. So therefore, what property should I use if I have parentheses? Correct. I should use my distributive property. So I'm going to distribute my 3 to both. And that will give me y plus 2 equals 3 times x will give me 3x. 3 times, now this is a negative 5. So 3 times negative 5 will be negative 15. And then I just have one last step. I need to be able to leave the y by itself. So what should I do? I should get rid of the 2. You can do -2 on both sides, so I'm just going to place my 2 to the right because it's -2. And now we have y equals 3x minus 17. And that is the equation on the line. Now we can actually test it. So let's go through and use decimals. And I'm going to use decimals. And I'm going to type in the information that's provided for me. This is not our line, right? So if you click on decimals.com, let me just, so if you go to decimals, and we've done this in class, so you should be comfortable using decimals.com. Once you click there, I'm going to go and refresh, so leave the page. I'm going to click on Graphing Calculator, and now Decimals has done a really good job at setting up the format. It's very easy to use. So first, I'm going to place my point. My point is 5, -2. And notice that it's already done here. I'm going to click on the little toolbar for my settings. I'm going to do projector mode just so you can see it better. And now the point is huge. So this is a point. And now I'm looking for the line that passes through that point, but my slope has to be 3. So therefore, I'm going to type in my equation, y equals 3x minus 17. And notice that it works, right? My slope, my my point, so it goes through the point of 5, -2, which matches this. And then if you notice, my slope is 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit. That works. So now, in this case, if I look at my slope is 1, 2, 3, and over 1. So therefore, it matches the point. It does go through the point, and that is the correct slope that we were looking for. And notice that in this case, you can actually tell that your slope is correct because that is a 3, and that is your slope. Now, we know that our y-intercept is -17. But we also know that the slope is here. So therefore, that is one way to be able to find the equation on the line. Now, one of the things that you can see is that if I type in this equation, the original equation that we have in here, if I type in that equation, that should represent the same line. So those two lines are equivalent. And let's try this out. So I'm going to type in y plus 2 equals 3 parentheses x minus 5. And one of the, well, you can see actually it shows you all the intersections. But what I want to see, I want to be able to see if I turn this on and off, you can see that green, blue, green, blue, green, blue, which means that they're exactly the same line. Isn't that impressive that we now can find an equation of a line, and we can find it in 2 different forms? So therefore, the first form that we can find it as is in point slope form. The second way, what is the equation or the name of this form? Let me make myself smaller. So if this is called the point slope form, what is this form? This is the slope intercept form. That is the slope intercept form. And this is what we covered last section, right? But before they give us the slope in the y-intercept, where now they give us the point in the slope. Let's go through example number 2. It's going to be very similar, all of our examples. So the process will be the same. Example number 2. write the equation of the line that passes through the point. And the point that they give us this time is negative 4 comma 3 and has a slope of negative 2. So let's go read through it, highlight the key things just like we've done before. I'm going to highlight my point, and I'm going to label x1 and y1. So this is my point. Now I'll go and label it. This is x1, y1. And now my slope, I'm going to underline the word slope of, and I'm going to circle the negative 2 because I know that is my m. And now I'm going to write the equation of the line. So I need to be able to decide. Do I need to be able to use the mx plus b or the point slope? Do I need to use the mx plus b, where they give you my slope and my y-intercept? Or do I need to use the point slope form? Which one do you think? Point slope form? Correct. So every time they give you a point, you want to use y minus, I'm going to place my box. So I remember that that is goes the y1 equals my slope. And I say, you know, my slope is negative 2. I can write that down. Then we have x minus, and I'll place my box. Because that way I remember that that is the number that I need to plug in. And it's very visual. So it really helps you guys just be able to visualize the process and remember where you need to be able to place your y2, y1 and x1, correct? So let's go and plug in the information. So we already plugged in the slope. So the only thing that we need to plug in is your y1, which goes here, and that is a 3. Positive 3, right? That negative is part of the equation. And now here will be x1, which will be negative 4. And I see a double negative. What happens when you see a double negative? We're going to make a huge positive sign. So we're going to make it into positive, right? Because negative times negative gives us a positive. And now this is your point slope form. And one of the reasons I'm making a big emphasis on this, because sometimes they're going to ask you to leave it in point slope form, and there's going to be other times that they're going to ask you to rewrite it in slope intercept form. And most of the time, you have to rewrite it in slope intercept form. And it's a very quick process, two-step process. What is the first step? Well, okay, draw the line. That's a nice step. That is a nice step. What is the first step or the next step? Correct. You're going to use the distributive property, and we're going to multiply this by both. So therefore, I have y minus 3 equals negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. And now we just have one last step, which is to move my negative 3 to the right, becomes a positive 3. And notice that I place it right underneath the 8, which is the one that I can add it to. So now we have y equals negative 2x comes down, and that gives me what's negative 8 plus 3. Different signs, subtract, and keep the sign of the bigger number. So subtract negative 5. And that's the negative. And this is in slope intercept form. And you have to remember, why is it called slope intercept form? Because they give you the slope and they give you the y-intercept. We know that this is where it crosses your y-axis, and we know that's the slope. So let's see if we got it correct. And we'll be doing this in class as well. So let's go through and type it into decimal. So I'm going to just click on the X's, gets rid of my equation. So 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to type in my point. My point is -4, 3. And I say, where's my point? Oh, I'm just going to drag this over to the right so I can see it. So that is -4 and up 3. And now I'm going to write down my final equation, y equals -2x. And if I did it correctly, it should cross that point. Let's see, -5. Perfect. Now I can change the color. If you don't like it black, you can hold it and then just say I want it red. And now I can see it. And now if I type in my original equation, or not my original equation, if I type my equation in point slope form, then that should be exactly the same line. So let's test it out. I'm going to type in y minus 3 equals -2x, -2 parentheses x plus 4. -2x plus 4. And notice that they give you a whole bunch of intersections, but right now I'm just going to click out of it. And that kind of shows you that they're the same. So sometimes, and I'm going to change the color because they both are red. Now let's go and change it to green. That looks great. And now if I turn one off, red, green, red, green, red, green, which means that they're the same line. That means that when you simplify from that step to this step, we did a perfect job. Excellent. Let's go through the next example, example number 3. And we have, let's see, let me make myself small again. I'm going to make my line. And the example number 3 will be very similar. I'm going to let you see if you can do it by yourself, and then we can check our answers afterwards. We have example number 3. Write the equation of the line. That passes through the point and the point that they give us in this case is -2, -3, and has a slope of -3/2. So now we have a slope that's a fraction. So see if you can set up the problem. Go read through it, highlight, use the red pen, and then we can do it together afterwards. Go and pause it. You got it? Excellent. So now I'm going to highlight my point. I know that my point is x and y, but they only give me one point. So therefore, for this equation, I'm going to use x1 and y1. I'm going to underline my slope, and I'm going to circle my actual slope. I know that's my value of m. And now, y minus, and then I'll place my box to remind me that I need to place, that is the value that I need to plug in. If you want to place a red underline instead, that'll be fine. My slope, then we have x minus, and then my box. And now we can plug in and say, well, you know, my slope is -3/2. Let me plug that in. It's going to be a fraction, -3/2, which is fine. We can work with fractions. Fractions are numbers as well. This is my x1. My x1 goes here, so I say -2. And I see a double negative, correct? So therefore I'm making it to a positive. Then here is a negative 3, and I see a double negative, so therefore I'm making to a positive. And now we have y plus 3. I'm going to use my distributive property to simplify this. And when you multiply your fractions, it's a very easy process. I'm going to multiply my fraction times x, so negative 3 over 2 times x is just negative 3 over 2x. Negative 3 over 2 times 2. Do you remember what happens whenever you multiply a fraction by a whole number? Correct. You need to place it over 1. And now I can multiply. Negative times positive is going to be negative. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 1 is 2. Correct? So we just multiply the numerators. 6, 2. And now the problems that we are going to give you are going to be nice because that should be a whole number. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So let's rewrite it. We have y plus 3 equals negative 3 over 2x minus 3. And now we have one last step. What is the last step? Correct. So in this case, we're just going through the last step. So I'll move my 3 to the right. It's a positive 3 becomes a negative 3. And now we have y equals, let me place my line. And that will give me negative 3 over 2x minus 6. And now, let's go and label our graphs. So I'm going to go and label my graph. And I know that this graph is in slope-intercept form. And this one is in point-slope form. So let's go and write that down. This is a point-slope form. And this is in slope-intercept form. So notice the difference. It's called point-slope form because we have the slope and we have a point. So point-slope because we have your x and your y, and then we have the slope. It's called the slope-intercept form because you have a slope and the y-intercept, which is our b. So now let's go into Desmos and type that in. Let's see what that gives us. Let me make myself a little smaller. There we go. And let me just move myself to the side. No. There we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and type in my point. So my point that they give us is negative 2 and negative 3. The equation that we have, the first equation, or the final equation, is y equal to negative 3 over 2. I'm going to move to the right, x minus 6. And notice that here's my point. And here's my line. And it works. It goes through that point. So by any chance, let's say that you have gotten a 3. Then we know that that's not correct because it doesn't go through the point that we're looking for. But in this case, we did get the correct answer, which is 3 at negative 6. And now I'm going to type in my slope-intercept, or my point-slope form, y plus 3 equal to negative 3 over 2. Move to the right, then parenthesis, x plus 2. And notice that it gives you all those points that are intersected. It's actually an infinite number of points of intersections because they're the same line. That makes sense, right? And now I'm going to click out of it. And that's in purple. That's purple, green. Purple, green, purple, green. So that means that they're exactly the same line. So which means that you simplify, your steps correctly. That means that you go from here to here. You did a great job. So hopefully that's what you got. So now let's go through example number 4. On example number 4, we are going to find the equation, but now they're going to give us 2 points. So let's go make a margin 2, 4, 6, and we're going to make the line all the way through example number 4. So write an equation of a line that passes through the points and they're going to give you now, oh, you guys can't see anything. I said, yes, I can't see anything. And let me make myself smaller. There you go. So write an equation of a line that passes through the point, through 2 points. And the points that they give you is 2, 6, and the other point that they give you is -2 and 4. So the equation, though, every time they give you a point, you have to use this equation, right? And let's write down the entire equation. That's on the other page. So we have what, and let me write it down over here. Y minus y1 equals my slope, x minus x1. So repeat after me. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. So there are several things I need to plug in. First, I need to plug in my y1. I need to plug in my slope and my x1. But the information that they give us is xy, xy. There's no slope. And this is my first point, and this is my second point. So therefore, I will need to find the slope first. Then I can find the equation. So let's do that first. First, I know that, well, let's plug it in. Let's use that first point. Y minus, and I'm just going to underline it from now on. Y1, which is 6. I don't have a double negative. Equals, I need to find my slope because now x minus 2. So the only thing that we're missing is our slope. But we know how to find our slope, right? We did that before. Do you remember the formula for the slope? Correct. Your slope is the difference of the y's, and I'm going to place that minus in red, over the difference of your x's. So we're going to do y2, which is 4, minus y1, which is 6. x2, which is -2, minus x1, which is 2. And now we can simplify. That gives us 4 minus 6 is -2. -2 minus 2 is -4. Negative divided by negative is going to be positive. So therefore my slope will be positive. And I can reduce it, correct? What's 2 divided by 4? You can't. But you can reduce it by 2. So it gives you, divided by 2 gives me 1. Divided by 2 gives me 2. So therefore, that is my slope, which is 1/2. And now I can finish the problem. Now that is in slope-intercept form. It's not slope-intercept form, it's point-slope form. So this is in point-slope form, but we're going to rewrite it in slope-intercept form. Very quick process, 2-step process. What is the first step? Correct. Distributive property. So therefore, we have y minus 6 equals 1/2 times x is 1/2 x. 1/2 times 2. Whenever you multiply a fraction by a whole number, we're going to place over 1. Positive times negative is going to be negative. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. So now we have y minus 6 equals 1/2 x minus 1. Notice that this should always give you a whole number on the problems that we'll be giving you. And now, let me move myself out of the way. Perfect. And now, I can solve for y. One more step. Move my negative 6 to the right, becomes a positive 6. Y equals 1/2 x plus 5. So what is the difference between the example 3 and example 4? Example number 3, they give you the slope. Example number 4, we need to find the slope. Should we do one last example? Let's do one last example. And then I'll give you guys a few problems for homework. Very few. So example number 5. And it says, write the equation of the line. That passes through the points and the points that they're giving us now is 0, 4, and the other point is 3, negative 2. So we have a point. So actually, let me, while you guys are writing that down, one of the things that we didn't go back and check decimals, right? Let's go and do decimals really quick. So, which actually works a little better because that way you can see that you did it correctly. So the points that they give us are 2, 6, for example, number 4, and negative 2, 4. So you see the red and black. So now, if I type in the equation that we have, the equation that we got for this, and I'm just going to type in the last one. Y equals 1 over 2, not 2, 1 over 2, x. And I want to make sure when I type in the x, I move to the right first and then type in the x. So you use your arrow keys, plus 5. And notice, we found the equation of the line that passes through those 2 points. We have the first point, the second point, and now we have a line. And remember that this is your y-intercept, so that is where it crosses your y-axis. This is the slope, up 1 to the right 2, so up 1 and to the right 2, and it matches. Perfect. So let's go and finish the last problem. And we have, write the equation of a line that passes through those 2 points. And we have x, y, x, y. This is my first point, so I'll be 1, 1. Second point, 2, 2. And now I'm going to write the equation. Y minus y1 and x minus x1. And what are we going to plug in? I'm going to plug in the y1, the x1, and your slope. So we have, let's plug in the y1, so y minus y1, which is 4. I don't have a double negative. My slope is what I'm looking for, x minus x1, which is 0. So now I need to be able to find my slope. And to find my slope is a quick process. We know that your slope is the rate of change, the difference of the y's over the difference of your x's. Is your rate of change, the y's, the difference between the y's over the difference of the x's. And we do y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6, and that gives me a 3. We don't need the 0, correct? And therefore, my slope is negative 2. So now I'm plugging in a negative 2 as my slope. So that is that point slope form. Now I'm going to rewrite it in slope-intercept form, a very quick process. -2 distribute the -2. So now we have y minus 4 equals -2 times x is -2x. -2 times -0. Anything times 0 is 0, so therefore we don't need it. I'm not going to write, or I can just do plus or minus 0. And one last step is to move the -4 to the right, becomes a +4. And now we have y equals -2x plus 4. And now let's confirm that that is correct. And then we'll talk about one more thing before we actually take off. So I'm going to type in my points just to confirm that that is correct. And that's going to help us talk about one more thing, which is 0, 4 is my first point, 3, -2 is my second point. And notice that I'm looking for the line that goes through, oh, you can't see it. Let me pull myself out of the way. So I'm looking for the line that goes through this point, which is 3, -2, and that point, which is 0, 4. So if I can find that line, then we'll be good. So let's go and type in the equation that we found, y equals -2x plus 4. Perfect. Isn't that great? Now, one of the things that you notice is that we actually had the y-intercept, the b. So let's say that someone say, no, Diaz, I know that they're giving me the y-intercept. They're not calling it the y-intercept. Whenever you say 0, 4, we know that is the y-intercept. So what if I just use this equation, y equals mx plus b? And I'm going to plug in my slope, which we found, and my b, which is 4. Correct. You get the same answer. But one of the things that you have to be careful, and I'm going to make myself huge to talk about this process, is that whenever you are using this equation, which is your mx plus b, you have to make sure that the point that they give you is your y-intercept, because this is 0, 4. If this was not 0, then you will not be able to use this equation. You have to use your point slope form. So this is will conclude the lesson for today. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time.